The story takes place in Austin, Texas, a vibrant city known for its music, tech scene, and sprawling suburbs. It's here that Jacob Miller, a 38-year-old software engineer, and his wife, Olivia Miller, a 36-year-old marketing manager, built their life together. They had what seemed like a stable, if not perfect, marriage, 2 kids, a cozy home in the suburbs, and a routine that worked for them. Until it didn't. Jacob never saw it coming. He thought he was living a decent life, nothing extraordinary, but it was enough. Olivia was his high school sweetheart, and they'd been together for almost 18 years. Their 2 kids, Ethan, 10, and Sophia, 8, were the center of their world. But one day, Jacob's world came crashing down when he discovered Olivia was having an affair with a man named Ryan Carter. Ryan. Even his name sounded like a cliché, a guy who drove a flashy sports car and worked as a real estate agent. Jacob found out not by catching them in the act, thank God, he wasn't sure his sanity could have survived that, but through a series of texts, phone calls, and one particularly damning message. Last night was incredible. Let's do it again soon, maybe try something new. Jacob's stomach churned as he read the words. He felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Olivia, the woman he'd loved for nearly 2 decades, was sneaking around with someone else. And not just anyone, Ryan, a guy who seemed to embody every midlife crisis stereotype imaginable. Naturally, Jacob confronted Olivia. And let me tell you, if there were an Olympic event for fake apologies, Olivia would have taken home the gold. Tears, promises, the whole 9 yards. I want to make this work, Jacob, she said, her voice trembling. I'll do whatever it takes, therapy, open phones, no more lies. Jacob, ever the optimist, wanted to believe her. He agreed to give their marriage another shot. For a while, it seemed like Olivia was trying. She went to therapy, shared her phone passwords, and even deleted Ryan's number. But Jacob soon realized Olivia hadn't stopped seeing Ryan, she'd just gotten better at hiding it. One night, while Olivia was asleep, Jacob checked her iPad. He'd forgotten it synced with her messages. What he found was a front-row seat to her ongoing affair, complete with timestamps, emojis, and even plans for future meetups. Jacob's heart sank. He felt like a fool. But this time, he wasn't going to confront her right away. No, this time, he had a plan. Jacob decided to confront Ryan first. He wasn't sure what he'd say or do, but he knew he couldn't let this slide. Early one morning, Jacob parked his car outside Ryan's house in a quiet Austin neighborhood. It was 7 a.m., and the streets were still empty. Jacob sat there, sipping coffee from a thermos, his stomach in knots. He'd spent the night replaying angry rock songs to psych himself up. When Ryan finally walked out of his house, briefcase in hand, Jacob's heart raced. He followed Ryan to his office, parked a few spaces away, and waited. As Ryan stepped out of his car, Jacob called out, "Hey, Ryan. Got a minute?" Ryan froze. His face went pale, and his eyes darted around like he was looking for an escape route. Do I know you?" "Yeah, you know me," Jacob said, stepping closer. "I'm Jacob. Olivia's husband. Ring a bell?" Ryan's face went from pale to full-on panic. He stammered something about not wanting any trouble, but Jacob wasn't there to fight. "Look, Ryan," Jacob said, his voice steady. "I'm not here to throw punches. I just want the truth. Olivia's been feeding me lies for months, and I want to hear it straight from you. What's been going on?" To his credit, or maybe because he was just a coward, Ryan spilled everything. Dates, calls, secret meetings. He even admitted to sneaking around while Olivia and Jacob were in therapy. Classy, right? "Thanks for confirming everything," Jacob said, recording the conversation on his phone. "You'll be hearing from Olivia soon. And maybe her parents. They're going to love this." Later that day, Jacob and Olivia had a therapy session scheduled. Perfect timing, right? Jacob walked in, calm but determined, while Olivia gave him her usual practiced smile. They sat down, and the therapist, Dr. Bennett, started with, "So, how's everything going this week?" Jacob didn't even let Olivia answer. "I talked to Ryan yesterday." Silence. Olivia's face went white, and she looked at Jacob like he'd just pulled the pin on a grenade. You what?" "Yeah, I talked to him," Jacob said, his voice steady. "And guess what? He sold you out. Told me everything, the calls, the meetings, the little love notes. All of it." Olivia's jaw dropped. "Jacob, nope," Jacob cut her off. "Save it. I've heard enough lies from you to last a lifetime. I wanted to believe you, Olivia. I really did. But you've been lying to my face this whole time. So here's the deal." He pulled out the divorce papers and slid them across the table. "I'm done. Sign these, and we can figure out how to co-parent without tearing the kids apart. But this marriage? It's over." Olivia started crying, of course. Big, dramatic sobs that could have won her an Oscar. But Jacob didn't care. Dr. Bennett tried to mediate, but there wasn't much to say. Olivia had made her bed, well, Ryan's bed, and now she had to lie in it. You'd think telling your in-laws that their perfect daughter is a lying, cheating mess would feel good, like a little victory lap. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It's just awkward and exhausting. Jacob showed up at Olivia's parents' house that afternoon, divorce papers in hand. Her mom, Margaret, opened the door, smiling like he was delivering cookies instead of nuking her perception of her daughter. "Hi, Jacob." "What a surprise," she chirped. "Yeah," Jacob said, forcing a smile. We need to talk." They sat in the living room. Olivia's dad, Robert, a man of few words, gave Jacob his usual stoic nod. Margaret poured tea like this was a casual catch-up. Then, Jacob dropped the bomb. "Olivia and I are divorcing," he said bluntly. Margaret froze mid-pour, tea sloshing over the rim. Robert's stoic mask cracked, barely, but enough to let Jacob know he had his attention. "Why?" Margaret whispered. Here's where it got tricky. Jacob didn't want to humiliate Olivia, but he wasn't about to lie either. "She's been unfaithful," Jacob said. "With a guy named Ryan. I found out 3 months ago and tried to work it out, but she kept seeing him behind my back." Margaret burst into tears instantly, clutching her chest like Jacob had told her the family dog died. Robert, still stone-faced, was harder to read. "I'm not here to bash Olivia," Jacob continued. "You're her parents, and she's going to need you. I just thought you should know the truth. And I need you to help her, for the kids' sake. They shouldn't have to live in chaos because of all this." Robert finally spoke. "You're a good man, Jacob. Better than most would be in your shoes." That almost broke Jacob. He thanked them, hugged Margaret, shook Robert's hand, and left before things got too emotional. He had more chaos to deal with. If there's a handbook on how to tell someone their spouse is cheating, Jacob would have loved to read it, because he was winging it. He called Ryan's wife, Lauren, and left a voicemail. "Hey, Lauren. This is Jacob. I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet in person?" She called back within an hour, her voice shaky. "What's this about?" "It's better if we talk face to face," Jacob said. "Are you free this afternoon?" They met at the Rustic Bean, a cozy cafe in downtown Austin. Lauren showed up looking polished but tense, like she'd already guessed this wasn't going to be a fun chat. "Lauren, I'm really sorry to have to tell you this," Jacob began, "but your husband, Ryan, has been having an affair with my wife, Olivia." Her reaction was immediate and explosive. 3 months, she shouted, slamming her coffee cup down. You knew for 3 damn months and didn't tell me? Jacob held up his hands. I didn't want to make things worse until I knew for sure what was going on. Trust me, I hated keeping this from you. She wasn't having it. I trusted him. We have kids together, and he's been sneaking around with your wife? Yeah, Jacob said quietly. I have proof if you want to see it. Lauren stared at him, fury in her eyes. What proof? Jacob pulled out his phone and played her a video he'd taken of Ryan admitting everything. Her face went from rage to devastation as she watched. By the time the video ended, she was sobbing into her hands. I'm so sorry, Lauren, Jacob said. You didn't deserve this. None of us did. She nodded through tears. Thank you for telling me. I need to think. They hugged awkwardly, and Jacob left, feeling like he'd just ripped apart someone else's world. Again. When Jacob got home, Olivia was waiting in the driveway, pacing and chain-smoking like a woman on the edge. The second she saw him, she launched into a full-blown tantrum. You told my parents, she screamed, throwing her cigarette to the ground. How dare you, Jacob? You're such a... Jacob hit record on his phone, tucked it in his pocket, and stepped out of the car. Yeah, I told them, he said calmly. They deserve to know why we're divorcing. Her rage crumbled into tears. You're ruining my life. No, Olivia, Jacob said, his voice steady. You ruined your own life. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She broke down sobbing in the driveway. For a second, Jacob felt sorry for her. This was the woman he once loved, the mother of his kids. But he couldn't let her guilt trip him. Get your stuff, he said. You can stay with your parents, but you're not staying here tonight. You can't do this, she wailed. You can't take my kids away from me. I'm not, Jacob said firmly. But they don't need to see you like this right now. You can see them tomorrow when you've calmed down. She tried to argue, but Jacob wasn't budging. Finally, she stormed into the house to pack a bag. When she left, she slammed the door so hard it knocked a picture off the wall. Jacob sighed, poured himself a drink, and replayed the chaos of the day in his head. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Breaking the news to Ethan and Sophia was hands down one of the worst moments of Jacob's life. He'd practiced what to say 100 times, but nothing prepares you for the look on your kids' faces when you tell them their world is about to implode. Olivia and Jacob sat them down after dinner. Ethan was busy stacking Lego bricks, while Sophia doodled on her tablet. They looked so peaceful, so oblivious to the storm coming their way. Hey, guys, Jacob started, his voice already cracking. Mom and I need to talk to you about something important. Ethan immediately stopped building, and Sophia set her pen down. They knew something was up. Olivia jumped in, her voice shaky. We love you both so much, and none of this is your fault, okay? But Mom and Dad are going to be living in separate houses soon. Boom. Silence. Then came the questions. Why? Ethan asked, his little brows furrowed in confusion. We're not getting along the way we used to, Olivia said, her voice trembling. But we both love you very much. Sophia, ever the sharper of the two, squinted at Jacob. Is this because of Mom's boyfriend? At Olivia's horrified gasp, Jacob froze. Ethan whipped his head around to his sister, wide-eyed. Mom has a boyfriend? Jacob sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Look, guys, it's complicated. But yes, that's part of it. We're going to work really hard to make sure this doesn't change how much we love you or how we take care of you. Sophia's lip quivered. I don't want you to get divorced. Jacob's heart shattered. I know, sweetheart, he said softly. Neither do we. But sometimes, things just don't work out the way we hope. Olivia started crying again and tried to hug them, but they both pulled away. Ethan crossed his arms, staring at the floor, while Sophia stormed off to her room. Olivia shot Jacob a glare. "You didn't have to tell them about the boyfriend. They deserve the truth," Jacob said flatly. "You should try it sometime. After all the chaos, you'd think Jacob would be smarter, right? That he'd stick to his guns and keep things strictly business between Olivia and him. Yeah, not so much. It happened on a night that should have been normal. The kids were asleep, and Jacob and Olivia were decorating for Christmas. Despite everything, they both wanted the kids to have some sense of normalcy. They laughed as they strung lights and hung ornaments, reminiscing about past holidays. For a few hours, it felt like old times. Then came the eggnog, and the brandy. Lots of brandy. By the time they were sitting on the couch watching It's a Wonderful Life, Olivia's favorite Christmas movie, the mood had shifted. Olivia leaned over and kissed Jacob's neck. Jacob should have stopped her. He thought about stopping her. But instead, he turned, and, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly a wonderful life moment. The next morning, Jacob woke up filled with regret. Olivia, on the other hand, looked hopeful. "Does this mean we're—" "No," Jacob said firmly, cutting her off. "It doesn't change anything. It shouldn't have happened, and it won't happen again." Her face fell, but she nodded. "Okay." Jacob spent the rest of the day kicking himself. What the hell was he thinking? After all the lying, the cheating, the therapy, he just handed her hope on a silver platter. Now, he had to figure out how to clean up his own mess. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster. Olivia was on her best behavior, which only made things harder. She apologized constantly, offered to help around the house, and tried to act like the perfect wife. But every time Jacob looked at her, all he could see were the lies. They started therapy again, not as a couple, but as co-parents. Their sessions were less about reconciliation and more about figuring out how to navigate this mess without ruining the kids. "You need to be honest with yourself," Dr. Bennett said to Jacob during one session. "Do you want to move forward with Olivia, or are you holding on out of guilt?" That question haunted Jacob. Did he still love her? Could he trust her again? Or was he just scared of starting over? Olivia, for her part, was relentless. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes, Jacob," she said one night. "I'll earn your trust back. Just give me a chance." Jacob wanted to believe her. God, did he want to? But trust doesn't just grow back overnight. It's built brick by brick, and they were still standing in the rubble. As winter turned into spring, something shifted. Olivia was different, genuinely different. She opened up in therapy about her fears, her insecurities, and why she turned to Ryan in the first place. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it made her human again. And Jacob? He started to let go of the anger. Not entirely, some scars never heal, but enough to see that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild something from the ashes. But then came the incident that nearly broke them for good. One evening, Jacob was working late in his home office when he heard a crash from the kitchen. He rushed in to find Olivia standing over a shattered glass, her face pale and her hands trembling. "What happened?" Jacob asked, his voice sharp with concern. Olivia didn't answer. Instead, she burst into tears. "I can't do this anymore, Jacob," she sobbed. "I can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not." Jacob froze. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not strong enough," Olivia said, her voice breaking. "I thought I could fix this, but I can't. I'm drowning, Jacob. And I'm dragging you and the kids down with me." Jacob's heart sank. He'd never seen Olivia like this, raw, vulnerable, and completely broken. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of something other than anger, fear. "Olivia, talk to me," Jacob said, stepping closer. "What's going on?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I've been seeing Ryan again." The words hit Jacob like a punch to the gut. He felt the room spin around him. "What?" "I didn't mean to," Olivia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It just happened. He texted me, and I was weak. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I'm so sorry, Jacob. I'm so sorry." Jacob felt a surge of emotions, anger, betrayal, but also a strange sense of relief. At least now he knew the truth. "You need to leave," Jacob said, his voice cold. "Now?" Olivia nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. She grabbed her coat and left without another word. The next few days were a blur. Jacob threw himself into work, trying to distract himself from the mess his life had become. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the image of Olivia's tear-streaked face. One night, as Jacob was tucking Ethan and Sophia into bed, Sophia looked up at him with wide, worried eyes. "Daddy, is Mommy coming back?" she asked. Jacob's heart ached. He knelt beside her bed and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I don't know, sweetheart," he said honestly. "But no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. Both of you." Sophia nodded, but Jacob could see the fear in her eyes. He kissed her forehead and left the room, his heart heavy with guilt. The next morning, Jacob decided it was time to take control of the situation. He called Olivia and asked her to meet him at the Rustic Bean. When Olivia walked into the cafe, she looked like a shadow of her former self, pale, tired, and defeated. She sat down across from Jacob, her hands trembling as she clutched her coffee cup. "I'm sorry," Olivia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I messed up, Jacob. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that I'm trying. I'm really trying." Jacob sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Olivia, I want to believe you. I really do. But how can I trust you after everything that's happened?" Olivia looked down at her hands, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. Even if it takes the rest of my life." Jacob felt a lump form in his throat. He wanted to believe her, he really did. But the scars of betrayal ran deep, and he wasn't sure if they could ever heal. As the weeks turned into months, Jacob and Olivia continued to navigate their complicated relationship. They attended therapy together, worked on rebuilding trust, and tried to create a sense of normalcy for Ethan and Sophia. It wasn't easy. There were days when Jacob wanted to give up, days when the anger and betrayal felt like too much to bear. But there were also moments of hope, small, fleeting moments that reminded Jacob why he fell in love with Olivia in the first place. One evening, as they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Olivia turned to Jacob and said, "I know I don't deserve you, Jacob. But I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful for the chance to make things right." Jacob looked at her, his heart heavy with emotion. "I don't know if we'll ever get back to where we were," he admitted. "But I'm willing to try. For the kids. And for us." Olivia nodded, tears streaming down her face. "That's all I can ask for." The months turned into a year, and Jacob and Olivia's relationship slowly began to heal. It wasn't perfect, far from it. There were still moments of tension, moments when the weight of Olivia's betrayal felt like too much to bear. But there were also moments of connection, moments when Jacob could see the woman he'd fallen in love with all those years ago. One evening, as they were sitting on the couch watching a movie, Olivia turned to Jacob and said, "I've been thinking a lot about us. About everything we've been through." Jacob paused the movie and looked at her. "And?" Olivia took a deep breath. "I know I hurt you, Jacob. And I know I can't change the past. But I want you to know that I'm committed to this, to us. I'm committed to being the wife and mother you and the kids deserve. Jacob felt a lump form in his throat. He wanted to believe her, he really did. But the scars of betrayal ran deep, and he wasn't sure if they could ever fully heal. I believe you, Jacob said finally. And I'm willing to keep trying. But it's going to take time, Olivia. A lot of time. Olivia nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. And I'm willing to wait. However long it takes. As the years passed, Jacob and Olivia's relationship continued to evolve. They worked hard to rebuild the trust that had been broken, to create a new foundation for their marriage. It wasn't easy, there were still moments of doubt, moments when the past threatened to pull them apart. But they fought for each other, for their family, and for the life they'd built together. One evening, as they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Jacob turned to Olivia and said, "You know, I never thought we'd get here." Olivia smiled, her eyes filled with tears. "Neither did I. But I'm glad we did." Jacob reached for her hand, his heart full of emotion. "Me too." The story of Jacob and Olivia is one of pain, betrayal, and redemption. It's a story of two people who faced the worst of each other and somehow found their way back to the best. It's a story of love, forgiveness, and the power of second chances. As they sat on the porch that evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Jacob and Olivia knew that their journey was far from over. There would still be challenges, still be moments of doubt. But they also knew that they were stronger together, that they could face whatever came their way. Because in the end, love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other, day after day, even when it's hard. And Jacob and Olivia had made that choice.